everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda, and in today's video we're going to be doing some spring nail art. As the sun is shining, spring is definitely in the air, and it's Friday, so overall it's a lovely day. I really hope you all enjoy today's video. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you do, or leave a comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscription button if you haven't already. Jumping into the design, and I'm going to be starting off with the 01 from the rubber coloured bases. So 01 is a milky soft white, and I absolutely love this. It's one of my favourites from the collection because I've wanted a milky white from Kiki London for a very long time, because they are amazing for doing milk bath nails, opal nails. And also this white makes an absolutely fabulous base for any of your pastels or bright neon colours. It really helps make them pop. Also, if you've got any colours in your collection that you found and do need 3 coats, with this white underneath them, they definitely will only need 2. I've also found when using this white, there's certain colours I've only needed 1 coat, so I highly recommend it. Now, if you are popping this underneath a gel polish colour, you will only need 1 coat. I've done 2 coats because on the middle 3 nails, I'm going to be doing a design where I wanted you to be able to see a lot of the white. So on those 3 nails, we're actually going to be adding some dried flowers. So here are the dried flowers I'm going to be using. And I'm also going to be using my Kiki London round nail art brush to apply these. I use this brush a lot. It's one of my go-tos. It comes in so handy. It just never leaves my desk. And then I'm also going to use the clear rubber base coat to help apply these and seal them on to the nail. So I'm going to come over the nails with a layer of this. Now, ideally, you could also have just applied your dried flowers into the second coat of the white. However, I wasn't 100% sure what kind of effect I was going for, so that's why I ended up applying them in with the clear. But after doing this set and having a little play around, I definitely would have applied these into the second coat of the white, just so you didn't need to add any additional layers, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you are doing nail art designs, you actually find ways that work quicker as you're working through the design. So I'm simply using my round brush with a little bit of base coat on it as well to really press down the dried flowers. They do, once they sort of absorb some of the base coat, they lay quite nice and flat, but I will show you how we make sure these are super smooth as well. But I'm just taking my time. I don't really have a sort of method that I'm applying these in. I'm just trying to apply them over the entire nail. They are going to be slightly covered by a milky coat, so you're not going to see the full vibrancy of them, but I did just want to make sure for this first layer of the design that there's lots of flowers down. We're going for that kind of a milk bath vibe, but more also, I don't know, I love the milky effect nails a lot lately. You know, you've got the hidden glitters where you've got a layer of the milky white over the top of the glitters. I really love those kind of designs, especially in the spring, because it makes everything that little bit softer. You've still got the bright pretty colors, but they're just not as bright as what you would be if you was doing a summer design. So I'm just taking my time to place these all down and making sure they'll all line as flat as possible. You will find when you are encapsulating anything, you will get a few little bits that stick up, but that doesn't matter too much. Just press them down as much as you can. I did find it easier as well to cut my dried flowers up into smaller pieces. Then once I'm happy with how they're all placed, I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. And this is what they're looking like so far. So you can see that there are some areas where they are slightly raised. Just because of how the flowers are, you're never going to get them to lay fully flat, especially with the larger ones. So the first step we're going to do next is we're going to apply another layer of that 01 rubber base coat. So I'm applying this nice and thin, and I'm trying to work it around all of those flowers, because what's going to happen is once we've cured this, we're going to buff them. And then what that's going to do is it's going to smooth everything out, but it's going to leave areas that look more milky and areas that look less milky, which is kind of the vibe I was going for. Because if you picture a milk bath, you will have some petals that go underneath the surface of the water and some that sit on top of the water. So it helps give off that layered effect by adding a layer of the white and then buffing the nail to bring some of them to the surface, if that makes sense. It'll probably make more sense when you can see it further along in the design. But I'm just making sure to really work this coat around all of those petals. And then we're going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds as well. So this is what they're looking like now they've cured. This layer has smoothed everything out quite a lot due to the consistency of the rubber bases. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take one of the Kiki London alcohol pads and just wipe off that tacky inhibition layer. You will find that the rubber base coats have quite a strong tacky inhibition layer, so do give them a good wipe if you are going to be buffing the nail. Then I'm going to take my Kiki London buffer and I'm using the 100 grit side, so that is the coarser side of the file, and I'm just gently buffing over the entire nail. You don't want to over buff, that's why I opted to use a buffer rather than a file, because you don't want to be taking too much of that product off. We don't want to remove the complete layer that we just added, we just want to smooth everything out. So any of those bits of flowers that are sticking up, this is going to smooth those particular pieces down. So it is going to remove a little bit of that white layer in some places, in the places basically where there was bumpiness from the flowers sticking up. So I'm just going over the entire nail. I have sped this up so it looks quite quick, but I'm doing it in a fairly slow, careful manner so that every now and then I can feel the nail to feel if there are any areas that are still bumpy. Then we're going to cleanse off all of that dust using one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, and the nail is now a lot smoother. So off camera I did this to all 3 of the nails, and you can kind of see some areas where it has buffed into the flowers and removed them a little bit, but that's okay. Then for our next layer of nail art, we're going to be adding some water decals. So for the decals, I'm using the Kiki London flat florals, and I'm going to be applying these today in the traditional way. So I've cut out my water decals as close to the image as possible, and then I'm just placing them in some room temperature water for around 10-15 seconds. That's going to soak that backing paper, and then the water decal is going to easily slide off of that backing paper, and you're then able to place it down on the nail. Now in a lot of my recent videos when I've applied water decals, I've been applying them with the stamping method, but I personally find the stamping method only works for me if I'm stamping the water decals down over a tacky base. So if I'm stamping them down straight over the base coat or straight over my gel polish colour, then it works perfectly. But where I have buffed this nail and wiped over it with an alcohol pad, there's no tack left, so I find that then the water decals end up sticking to my stamper rather than transferring to the nail. So when that's the case, I just opt to use the traditional water decal method, and this method is super easy. To be honest, the Kiki London water decals are very easy to work with. They slide easily off of that backing paper, and then I just take my tweezers, place it down, and you're still able to, whilst they're still wet anyway, you're still able to move them around using your silicone tool to get them in place. So I sometimes just take a moment to place them or to move them around until I'm happy with how they're placed. And then I do also use my silicone tool to squeeze out any creases or any air bubbles that might be there. I don't tend to get many. I do find that these water decals lay down nicely. So I'm just repeating that step on all 3 of the nails. When you cut your water decals out, you do want to cut them out as close to the image as possible, because then you're not going to have too much of the excess clear part of the paper. So then they stick down nicely and it's a little bit easier to encapsulate them. And I loved this effect. If you've watched my videos, you'll know that I absolutely love layering nail art. So I love that we've got these dried flowers in the milky color, and they're kind of that, they look a lot softer, and then we've got the more vibrant decals over the top. It kind of gives off a bit of a 3D dimensional effect, and I thought it looked really pretty, especially for spring. So I'm going to pop these 3 nails aside to allow the water from the water decals to fully evaporate and dry off. So whilst we're doing that, we're going to move on to the other 2 nails, where we're going to be using the beautiful Buttercup. This is one of my absolute favorite yellows, especially for spring. It's such a beautiful color. So on these 2 nails, because we're just coming straight in with a gel polish color, these 2 nails technically only did need 1 layer of the rubber base coat. 1 layer would be sufficient enough to still make your colors pop. I popped 2 layers down because when I first started off this design, I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do on these 2 nails. But if you was using the rubber bases just to go underneath color, you would only need 1 coat. But just look how having that white base makes the colour pop. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to pop that first coat in for 30 seconds, and then I'm just going to come in with a thin second coat just to really smooth and even out that colour. I have found, like I said, with some colours working over the top of the white, you don't need 2 coats, but I do tend to always do 2 coats of colour just to get that nice even coverage. Keeping it nice and thin though, because you don't need to use your colours thick. They are very highly pigmented. And then I'm going to pop that in for 30 seconds to cure as well. Now, I wanted to keep these nails fairly simple because we've got a lot going on the middle 3 nails, but I did still want to have a little bit of nail art going on. So I opted for some stamping, and we're just going to simply stamp down these same 2 images on both nails. Now, you could hand paint this if you wanted to, if you didn't want to do stamping, but I kind of wanted to keep this quite salon friendly. And I know sometimes when you're working in a salon and you've got clients back to back, it can be hard to fit in doing any hand painted nail art, as it does take a little bit more time. So whenever I have a situation where I'm a bit pressed for time, but I want something, I still want a nice bit of nail art, then that's when I will opt for stamping. I do absolutely love combining gel polish and stamping. They're 2 of my favourite things to put together. Now, over the top of that, I'm going to come in with a layer of the Kiki London foil gel, because I felt as though they looked a little bit too plain with just the stamping on them. So I'm just going to apply a thin coat of the foil gel to the entire nail, keeping it nice and thin because we don't want to add any bulk, but I do find that the foil gel is a nice thin consistency. Then once I've applied this, I'm going to pop this in my Kiki London LED lamp to cure for 30 seconds. Now, as you see pictured, I have the 96 watt Deluxe Kiki London LED lamp. If you are working with a different lamp, so if you're not working with the Kiki London lamp, then you may need to play around with your cure times for your foil gel. If you are having any trouble with your foils, then the first thing I would do is recommend playing around with your cure time. So either try curing a little bit less or a little bit more, just because it can vary depending on the lamp you're using. Now, I went for this matte silver foil because I wanted to keep everything quite soft, and I loved the matte effect of this foil. And I'm just framing the tip of the nail. So on this one, I'm going to go down one side and across the tip, and you'll see on the other nail I did down the other side, just because technically one of these nails would be the thumb and one would be the little finger. And I quite like that frame look that it gives off when you do this. So as you can see here, they go down different sides. Just come in with a little bit more on this one, just because it had a little bit less than the other one, and I wanted it to look as even as possible. And I love a hint of foil. I kind of tend to use foil in a lot of my designs. Now we have finished all of the nail art, we're going to come in and top coat, and I really felt as though this set needed to be matte. So I'm going to apply a thin layer of the Kiki London No White Matte top coat. Now this top coat does go on glossy, so the great thing is it gives you a preview of what the nails would look like if you did do them glossy. So of course you could come in at this step and use your no wipe top coat if you wanted a glossy effect, but wait till you see these matte. I felt as though they worked perfectly matte. You've got that nice pop of colour, but the matte softens everything, which I think is perfect for spring. So once I have applied my layer of matte top coat, I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. And that, guys, is the end of the design. I really enjoyed doing these. I'm really loving getting all the brighter pastel colours out. So if you do have any suggestions of designs or colours you would like to see done, then please do comment below and I'd be happy to give them a go. I'd really love some colour combo suggestions as well. So if you've got any colour combinations, please pop them in the comments below and I'd happily give those a go. But just look how gorgeous these looked matte. I really hope you all enjoyed this design as much as I did. If you did, then please do give the video a thumbs up. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and I shall see you all again next Friday. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.